The security guard at the country club gates glanced at my invitation, then shook his head. "Ma'am, this guest was removed from the list." I offered a calm smile and handed him a second, different card. "Tell them Grace Whitmore is here." The guard's face went white as he read the title printed underneath my name. "My name is Grace Whitmore, I'm 34, and for the last 11 years, my family has told the world I'm dead." It was, of course, a social death, not a literal one, but in their world, the distinction was minimal. I wasn't always the family pariah. Growing up in our pristine Connecticut town, I was the reliable middle daughter. I wasn't the brilliant eldest, my sister Vivian, nor was I the cherished baby, little Emma. I was just Grace, the one who helped with homework, cleaned up messes, and never, ever, caused drama. Until I did. At 22, I made a choice my family found unforgivable. It was a simple choice, really. I chose love. In response, they chose to erase me. For over a decade, my existence was scrubbed from their lives. No Christmas cards, no birthday calls, no invitations to the weddings and graduations that marked the passage of time. While they continued building their flawless lives within their exclusive social circles, I vanished into a life of my own, becoming someone they never bothered to look for, someone they couldn't have imagined, even if they had. But being written off by your own blood does one of two things to you. It either breaks you completely, or it sets you free. Free to become the person you were always meant to be. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, slipped under my apartment door like a guilty secret. The paper was thick cream, the embossing a gaudy gold. My hands shook as I read the words. "Vivian Elizabeth Whitmore and Jonathan Ashford III request the honor of your presence." My sister was getting married. The same brilliant, perfect sister whose last words to me, 11 years ago, were "selfish little homewrecker." Tucked inside was a handwritten note in her meticulous script. "Grace, I know we haven't talked, but family is family. Mom says you're doing well in Portland. Hope you can make it. V." I almost laughed out loud. Family is family. A convenient sentiment after a decade of silence. What happened 11 years ago wasn't a simple sibling spat. When I was 22, I fell deeply in love with David John. He was a summer associate at my father's law firm, sweet, kind, and hardworking. He made me feel like I was the only person in the room. The problem was, Vivian had seen him first. She'd brought him to a family barbecue, parading him around like a new prize. But David's attention wasn't on her. He and I spent the evening talking about books and music, and by the end of the night, we'd exchanged numbers. I know I should have told her. I should have been honest about our first date, and our second, and the fact that we were falling for each other. Instead, terrified of her reaction, I kept it a secret for 3 months. When Vivian finally found out from a mutual friend, she exploded. She accused me of stealing him, of being pathologically jealous, of deliberately sabotaging her happiness. "You've always been jealous," she screamed in front of our parents. "Always trying to take what's mine because you can't stand that I'm better than you." My mother tried to play peacemaker, but Vivian cut her off. She knew I liked him. She knew, and she went after him anyway. "She's dead to me." Then she delivered her ultimatum to our parents, her eyes blazing with fury. "Choose, her or me. But I will not be in the same family as someone who would betray her own sister." The silence that followed was suffocating. My mother stared at the floor. My father, the seasoned lawyer, cleared his throat, unable to formulate an argument. Emma, only 16 at the time, just stared, her face a mask of shock. "Vivian," I whispered, "he never even knew you were interested. You called him friend." "Liar," she spat. That's when my mother sealed my fate. "Grace, maybe it would be best if you didn't come around for a while. Let things cool down." A while became forever. David and I weathered the storm. We moved to Portland, got married in a small ceremony with his family and our friends, and built a life far away from the Whitmore family drama. Now, staring at that invitation, a cold resolve settled in my chest. Vivian was staging her perfect wedding, surrounded by the family that chose her. She wanted me there as a prop, a token of her magnanimous ability to forgive. I picked up my phone and dialed the number I knew by heart. "Porter and Associates. the receptionist answered. "Hi, this is Grace John. Is my husband available?" It was time my family learned exactly who they'd thrown away. The following weeks were an exercise in digital archaeology, uncovering the ghost I had become. I started with social media, which I'd long avoided. Vivian's Instagram was a curated gallery of perfection. Charity galas in glittering gowns, promotions at Dad's firm, ski trips to Aspen, and romantic engagement photos from Martha's Vineyard. Hundreds of likes and fawning comments from friends and family decorated every post. I scrolled through years of birthdays, holidays, and European vacations. My name was never mentioned. Not a single person asked where I was. It was as if I had simply ceased to exist. The wedding hashtag, number Vivian finds her prince, was already buzzing. I clicked through an endless stream of photos from engagement parties and bachelorette weekends in Napa. The same cast of characters appeared again and again, Mom in her signature pearls, Dad in his navy blazer, and Emma, now grown and gorgeous, all smiling alongside their country club friends. One photo from the previous Christmas stopped me cold. The whole family was gathered around their enormous tree, the caption reading, "3 generations of Whitmores celebrating another blessed year." A family friend had commented, "You're so lucky to have such successful daughters." Daughters. Plural. As if there were only 2. I decided to call Emma. Now 27, she was married to a hedge fund manager and living in Manhattan. She'd never blocked my number, but she'd never used it either. "Grace?" Her voice was thin, shocked. "Oh my God, is everything okay?" "I got Vivian's invitation," I said. I wasn't sure if it was real. A heavy sigh came through the phone. "Look, I pushed for her to invite you. I know things were bad, but it's been 11 years. "Things were bad?" I cut in. "Emma, they disowned me because I dated a guy Vivian had a crush on. It was more complicated than that," she said, her tone defensive. You know how she felt about David. She felt nothing. She barely knew him. And what was I supposed to do? Ask her permission to fall in love? The silence stretched. "You don't remember Dad telling me not to come home for Christmas? Or Mom changing the locks?" "They changed the locks because you had a key made for David," she retorted, "and Dad was just trying to keep the peace." "Until I disappeared?" The line went quiet again before she finally spoke, her voice small. "Grace, I missed you. I really did." But Vivian, she was so hurt. Mom and Dad thought it was best to let her heal without reminders. A reminder. That's all I was. Not a daughter, not a sister. Just a painful memory. "So why now?" I asked. "Why the invitation after all this time?" Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "She's happy now. Jonathan is perfect for her wealthy family, Harvard Law, the whole package." She said maybe it was time to forgive and forget, to show everyone she's big enough to move past it. There it was. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about public relations. I was to be a prop in Vivian's play, the wayward sister welcomed back by the gracious, evolved bride. After hanging up, I sat in my home office, the wall of awards and certifications I'd earned over the last decade staring back at me. David found me there an hour later. "Bad conversation?" he asked gently. I told him everything. "You know what hurts the most?" I said, my voice thick. "It's not that they chose her, it's that they made it so easy. Like I was disposable." David took my hands. "Grace, you don't have to go. You don't owe them a thing." "I know," I replied, my voice steadying. "But I want to, not for them, for me. I want to see their faces when they finally realize who they threw away." That night, I made a list of everything I had accomplished since they cast me out. It was a long list. I wasn't just planning to attend a wedding. I was planning to make a statement. What my family couldn't possibly know was who I'd become in my 11 years of exile. While Vivian was climbing the ladder at Dad's firm and Emma was decorating her Upper East Side apartment, I had been quietly building an empire. It started with David's family, who owned a prestigious architectural firm in Portland. When I found myself unemployable in Connecticut, word of the family drama had mysteriously spread. David's father offered me a job managing their client relations. I was good at it. I understood people, and within 2 years, I doubled their client base. That's where I met Sarah Montgomery, a tech executive who hired the firm. She was brilliant, demanding, and saw something in me I hadn't yet seen in myself. "You're wasted here," she told me over coffee. "You should be running your own operation." Sarah became my mentor, then my business partner. Together, we founded Montgomery John Solutions, a consulting firm specializing in crisis management and corporate restructuring. We took on failing companies, politicians in scandals, and celebrities in hot water, and we rebuilt their reputations. Our firm grew rapidly, with offices across the country and, eventually, overseas. The business cards in my purse read simply, "Grace John, Senior Partner." But the letterhead told the real story: Montgomery John Solutions annual revenue, $47 million. I had also kept tabs on my family, not out of bitterness but out of professional habit. In my line of work, information is power. I knew about Dad's gambling problem, the IRS investigation into Mom's charity that quietly vanished, and Vivian's affair with a married partner at her firm. I didn't plan to use it, but I kept it. Knowledge is power, and I had become very, very powerful. The RSVP deadline loomed. Emma's texts became more frequent. "Just checking if you got the invitation. Then Vivian's really hoping you'll come." And finally, Mom wants to know about dietary restrictions. I ignored them all. Instead, I called my private investigator, Marcus. "I need background on the Ashford family," I told him. "Everything. Especially Jonathan Ashford III. The Ashfords, Marcus discovered, were old money with a tightly controlled fortune. Jonathan's trust fund was substantial, but it came with a strict morality clause. Any scandal, any hint of impropriety that reflected poorly on the Ashford name, could lead to immediate disinheritance. "This family doesn't just have skeletons," Marcus had said. "They have a whole graveyard they keep buried." Perfect. The night before my flight, David held me close. "You don't have to prove anything to them," he said quietly. "This isn't about proving anything," I replied. "This is about showing them the truth." As I packed, I included 3 things: the wedding invitation, the file Marcus had prepared, and our company's latest annual report. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply showing up with receipts. The Fairfield Country Club was exactly as I remembered it, a monument to understated, old money elegance. I handed my keys to the valet and walked through the doors. The first person I saw was Emma. Her face cycled through shock, relief, and a flicker of panic. "Grace! You came!" She rushed over, her hug feeling more desperate than welcoming. "You look incredible." I did. I had chosen a navy blue silk dress that whispered wealth, accented with jewelry that caught the light. "Where are Mom and Dad?" I asked. "Dad's with the groomsmen. Mom's helping Vivian. Grace, before you see them." Grace Whitmore. The voice belonged to Jonathan Ashford III. He was the quintessential Connecticut golden boy, all square jaw and easy smile. "Vivian mentioned you might be coming," he said. "She's a little nervous." "I imagine she is." "Look," he continued, his smile tightening, "today is about fresh starts. I hope you can keep that in mind." Before I could answer, my mother's voice cut through the air. "Grace Elizabeth Whitmore." She stood in the doorway, a queen surveying her court. The cocktail hour chatter died down as all eyes turned to us. "Hello, Mother." She approached, her own smile fixed. "You look well. Portland must agree with you." "It does," I said. Dad appeared, his face flushed. Well. The prodigal daughter returns." Then, I saw her. Vivian stood at the top of the grand staircase, a vision in white silk. She froze when she saw me, her bouquet trembling. She descended the stairs slowly and deliberately. When she reached the bottom, we stood face to face for the first time in over a decade. "Grace," she whispered. "Hello, Vivian. You look beautiful." "Thank you for coming," she murmured. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. That's when Jonathan's father, Jonathan Ashford Jr., a man who radiated influence, approached our strained family circle. "Vivian, darling, aren't you going to introduce us to your sister?" Vivian paled. Of course. This is Grace, my sister. Wonderful to meet you, he said, extending a hand. I'm Jonathan Sr., are you in the law as well? This was the moment. The culmination of 11 years of silence and success. Actually, I'm in crisis management, I said, my voice clear and steady. I run a consulting firm. Reputation, management, corporate restructuring, that sort of thing. How interesting. The name of your firm? Montgomery John Solutions. The name landed like a bomb. The color drained from Jonathan Sr.'s face. I saw flickers of recognition on the faces of several other guests. He knew the name. You're Grace John, he said slowly, the pieces clicking into place. The Grace John who handled the Pemberton scandal. Among others, yes, I confirmed. The silence that followed was absolute. My family stared at me as if I had grown a second head. Grace, Vivian whispered, her voice trembling, what are you saying? I smiled, pulling a business card from my clutch and handing it to Jonathan Sr. I'm saying, I announced to the room at large, that the sister you threw away 11 years ago built a $47 million company. And now, everyone here knows exactly what you lost. The rest of the wedding was a blur of whispered conversations and sideways glances. I watched my parents frantically try to spin a narrative to their friends that explained their incredibly successful, hitherto unmentioned daughter. During the reception, Jonathan Sr. sought me out. Mrs. John, he said, I have to ask, would you be interested in discussing some consulting work for the Ashford Foundation? I'd be happy to send you our information packet, I replied smoothly. By the end of the night, I had handed out a dozen business cards. As I was leaving, Emma caught my arm, her eyes filled with tears. Grace, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. That's the point, Emma, I said gently but firmly. You had no idea because you never bothered to find out. Will you stay in touch now? She asked. I looked at my little sister and saw genuine regret. That depends. Do you want a real relationship or just bragging rights? I want to know you, she whispered. The real you. Then call me, I said. Call me because you miss your sister. Driving away from the club, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders that I hadn't realized I was carrying for 11 years. I hadn't come for an apology. I hadn't come for their approval. I had come to show them who I was, on my own terms. Mission accomplished.